Pharmacy Math 1 exam. So that includes things like basic conversions, day supply, fractions, decimals, multiplication, division, just a lot of the intro stuff. A lot of memorization. So just remember Pharmacy Math 1, that's when we started talking about the units of measurement. So I'm going to start this by saying memorize your conversions. That's very important for this because if you don't memorize them, you don't know them. Unfortunate, but that's the truth. So we're going to start with the first one, Greek metric prefix. So that is going to be a word. That is going to be a millionth. And if you remember, that is going to be micro. Okay. Sometimes you'll see this symbol, mu. That is a millionth. So a millionth is very small. Okay. Convert the following measurements around to the nearest hundredth if applicable. Okay, so we have 5 pounds is how many kilograms? So if you remember our conversion rate, we have 2.2 lbs to every 1 kilo. So a kilo weighs more than a pound. That's our conversion rate. So we have 5 pounds is equal to how many kilograms? And over here we have our conversion rate. Remember to keep your units the same on the top. And then we have 1 kilo. That is our unit conversion. So that turns into 5 times 1 divided by 2.2. And you should get around 2.5, which makes sense because the conversion rate is about 2 pounds for every kilo. So it would just be 5 divided by 2. Okay. All right. So solve the following problem. How many capsules, and I'm going to change my color here. How many capsules, that's our question, 34 days for potassium chloride, 10 milliequivalents per capsule, 1 capsule, QID, X34D. Okay, so this one's going to rely on the fact that you know what this means. QID is equal to 4 times a day. Okay, the way that you can remember QID is what does quad start with? So quad is Q. QD is daily. So don't get confused with those because a lot of people get confused with daily and 4 times daily. So if they're going to take 1 capsule 4 times a day, how many do they end up taking in a day? Well, they end up taking 4 caps per day. Okay. So we need to say, okay, it needs to last in 34 days. They're taking 4 a day. So that's 34 capsules. And we need to say, I'm sorry, no, it's not 34 capsules, it's 34 days. 34 days, come on. How many capsules? And on this side, that's when we say 1 day, 4 capsules. So that side says how many do we take in a day. The other side is how many do we need to satisfy 34. So that turns into 4 times 34 divided by 1, which is 136 capsules. A lot. Okay. Convert the following measurements around to the nearest hundredth if applicable. So, off the top of my head, I currently already know that 473 mils is a pint. How do I know that? Well, it's just memorization. But I'll show you if you want to know. So, I'm just going to go ahead and draw the gallon man just once on this review because you will need to know it. Okay. So, we have our gallon man. And then from here, I'm not going to draw every single one, but from here, there are cups. Okay. Okay. So 2 cups and a pint. And if you remember, how many mils are in a how many mils are in a cup? So there you have to infer that a cup, is equal to 8 fluid ounces. Okay, so that's where you have to put that together. So because 1 cup is 8 ounces, and you also know, well, 1 ounce is equal to how many mils? 30. I keep writing ounces. Okay, so we need to ask ourselves how many mils are in a cup. So what we'll do is just 30 times 8. There's 240 mils in a cup. But I said that there are 2 cups in a pint, so I need to multiply that by 2. And I'll get 480 mils in a pint. You'll notice that I'm kind of close, but that's the problem with the customary system. If you start rounding, et cetera, but we're close. Same thing, day supply thing. So we need to look at how many days we're going to be taking it for. Taking it for 3. 1 capsule QID for 3 days. Okay. Do not forget that this is 4 times. Okay. So we have 3 days. How many capsules? And they take 4 capsules in a day. So it turns into 4 times 3 divided by 1, which is 12 capsules. Okay. The alkaline elixir, 80 milligrams per 15 mils. What is the dose in TSP? What does TSP stand for? TSP is teaspoon. Okay. And you probably already guessed it. It's going to ask you how many mils are in a teaspoon. So off the top of your head, you should know that 1 teaspoon is equal to 5 mils. And we have another one that sounds like it, which is a tablespoon. Tablespoons are bigger. They take 3 teaspoons. So what's 5 times 3? 15. So you can see the relationship there is 3 to 1, right? There are 3 teaspoons in 1 tablespoon. So we need to make a proportion because there is 80 milligrams in 15 mils. We don't need 80 milligrams. We need 120. So that will be a proportion. 80 milligrams over 15 mils is equal to 120 milligrams. We don't know how many mils that's going to be. Okay, so it turns into 120 times 15 divided by 80. 22.5 mils. But wait, that is not the answer because that's in mils. It says, what is the dose in teaspoons? So we need to uncircle that and we need to ask ourselves how many teaspoons is 22.5 mils? Well, you guessed it, it's probably going to be a proportion. How many mils are in a teaspoon? There are 5 mils in 1 teaspoon. So it turns into 22 times 1, 22.5 times 1 divided by 5. And that is our final answer, 4.5 teaspoons. Okay, there we go. Convert the following. Oh, grains to milligrams, right here. When you see GR, you should think of grain. And when you think of grain, I want you to think of a certain number. I want you to think there are 65 of those in 1 milligram. So there, right there is my proportion. I have three numbers. I have 1/4, 65, and 1. But if you put 1/4 in your proportion, you're probably going to confuse yourself. So make sure to do 1 divided by 4 is equal to 0.25. And that is going to be grain. So 0.25, we don't know how many milligrams that is, but over here I have my conversion factor, right? Because there are 65 grains in 1 milligram. And so I will do 0.25 times 1 divided by 65. All right, grains, milligrams. Right here, first thing you need to do is write your relationship. And if you remember, there are 65 milligrams in 1 grain. Okay. With that being said, now you have all three numbers you need for your proportion. But if you have 1/4, it might confuse you if you put that in your proportion. So we're going to convert that into a decimal. Okay. So that is 0.25 grains. How many milligrams? Over here, 1 grain and 65 milligrams. So it turns into 65 times 0.25. And you should get 16.25 milligrams, right? Yes. Perfect. All right, another day supply type question. We have a SIG, take 62.5 milligrams, TID for 5 days. What is the dose in teaspoons? Okay, so just remember teaspoons, how many mils? You should probably ask yourself that every time you see the word teaspoon or tablespoon. So, what is the dose in teaspoon? The dose, okay? So, by that, this is the dose, okay? Don't let the SIG confuse you because the SIG will tell you how many times they take it a day, how long they're taking it, but that's the dose, okay? So 62.5 milligrams. We need to ask ourselves how many mils that is because we have a suspension here that is 50 milligrams per milliliter. So it turns into 62.5 milligrams times 1 mil divided by 50 milligrams. You should get 1.25 mils. Okay, 1.25 mils, but it's asking for our answer in teaspoon, so don't forget, we don't know how much that is in teaspoons, but we know the relationship because it is 5 to 1. Okay, so 1.25 times 1 divided by 5. That is 0.25 teaspoon. Okay, that is our answer. Ooh, math problem. Here we go. So just remember when you're adding and subtracting, that is the hard stuff with fractions. So 3/8, 11/12. First thing I do really is I look to see if there is a number that I can go to that they all share. So just off the top of my head, I know that I can turn 8 to 24 and I can also turn 12 to 24. So how do I turn 8 to 24? I times it by 3. So I have to do the same in top and bottom. And I'll do this times 2. So what that will be is it'll be 9 over 24 plus 22 over 24. Okay. So now what I've done is made a common denominator because adding and subtracting needs a common denominator. Plus or minus needs common denominator. Okay. So now that we have the bottom number the same, we can just add straight across on top. So that will be 9 plus 22, which is 31, over 24. Now hold up. 31 over 24, that's not the correct answer because 31 is bigger than 24, so that means you have more of your fraction than you can. So we need to do 31. Sorry, we need to take out 24 of that 31. So that leads us to 7 over 24, and then 1. Do 7 and 24 share a number together? So no, I don't think so. Okay, 1 and 7 24ths. Another calculation for day supply. So once again, I kind of emphasize dose right here. So what that means is I'm already telling you what we're looking for. We need to look for one dose, not the entire dose. So we need to ask ourselves, they are taking 200 milligrams TID. It's 200 milligrams. What is this? 200 milligrams per 5 mils. I'll go ahead and write it out. But you're probably already thinking to yourself, okay, if we need 200 milligrams and we already know that there's 200 milligrams in every 5 mils, how many teaspoons are they going to take? How many mils is a teaspoon? 5 mils is a teaspoon. 1 teaspoon is the answer. Oh, MDCC to Arabic. So we have millennia, which is 1,000. We have D for decade. So just remember that decade 10. Sorry, no, it's not 10. 500. This is 100. This is 100. Okay. So all that means is because they're in sequential order, they are from greatest to least. I don't have to do any subtraction or anything. I'll just add them all together. So that is, what is that, 1,700? Okay. Calculate the following number, most simple form. So division. Division is actually pretty easy because we don't have to think about common denominator. But one thing that will trick you is we don't remember what to do with the 25 because it's not a fraction, but it is. When you're trying to make something a fraction, just put it over 1. You will not change the value. You need to put it over 1. If you put it over itself, you turn it into 1. So just remember if you have 25 or any number, just put it over 1. And we say divide by 1/5. So there is a special rule about division, and it involves the reciprocal of the divisor. So that turns into 25 over 1 times 5 over 1. Because remember, when I do that reciprocal action, I turn this I turn that into a multiplication symbol. So multiplication, super simple, 25 times 5, 125, and then 1 times 1 is 1, so that turns into 125. All right, so there's a lot going on here. What is the maximum number of boxes containing 48 tablets that can be purchased within 30 days? So if we look here, 30 milligram tablets, 24, 48, and 96. The CMEA limit is 366. So limit, okay, so that's our limit. So we need to ask ourselves, okay, we have certain box sizes, 24, 48, 96. How many can I take out that are 48 count? Okay, so pretty simple action here. We just need to divide by 48. 366 divided by 48, that is 7.625. Okay, is that my answer? Can I give a patient 7.625 boxes? No. I need to round that. So my question to you would be, if that is the limit, would it make sense for me to round up or round down? Well, I need to round down and turn that into 7 boxes. Okay. If 100 tablets contains 40,000 milligrams of ibuprofen, how many grains are in 500 tablets? So there are a couple things there that might trick you. So 100 tablets contains 40,000 milligrams. How many grains in 500 tablets? So first thing first, we need to set up a proportion saying, okay, if there is 40,000 milligrams in 100 tablets, how many milligrams are there in that 500? By setting up a proportion, you will do 40,000 in 100, and then 500. So 40,000 times 500 divided by 100. That is 200,000 milligrams in that 500 count bottle. But if you remember, I highlighted grains because a lot of people would end the problem there. But just remember, I asked for it in grains. So if you remember your conversion factor, there is 65 milligrams in 1 grain. So what are we going to do with our 200,000? We're going to do 200,000 divided by 65. And you get 3,076.9 grain. Okay, there you go. 2 grains to milligrams. We already know that there's 65 grains in 1. I'm sorry, wrote that backwards. There are 65 milligrams in 1 grain. So in this problem, we have 2 grains. So 65 times 2 is 130. Okay. All right, medical abbreviations. This is going to be something, unfortunately, that's just going to have to come down to memorization. So when you have this one, I want you to focus on that A. AU, AD, AS, OU, AD, or I'm sorry, OU, OS, and OD. Those are all relating to 2 separate parts of the body. We have eyes and ears. So when you think about what your ears do, they listen to audio. So A for audio, what do you do with your eyes? You observe. So observe. Or if you want the medical term, it's for ophthalmic. Ophthalmic. Okay. So that means anything you see that has an A in it, that's going to refer to your ears. Anything you see with an O in it, it's going to refer to your eyes. So my other question is we have AD. So we have D, and we have AS, and then we have AU. So what I want you to remember and what I always think about is the Bible verse about the hands. So in biblical terms, the right hand is the good one, the left hand is the bad one. So Latin word for bad is going to be sinister. This is directly leading into a left-handed joke about how left-handed people are evil. I'm just kidding. But just remember that left-handed is S, and then D is dexter, which is right. And then U, I think of like unanimous or uniform or unity is together. It's going to be both. Okay, so knowing that, AU, I have an A, which is auditory, so it's sound, so ears, and then U, which is uniform, which is both ears. Okay. OS, I have eyes, and I have sinister, so that is left eye. Stat is like immediately. IV, intravenous, so in the veins, like an injectable. PRN means as needed. If you're a PRN employee, it means you work as needed. OU, we have O for eyes, and then we have U for uniform, both eyes. HS for hour of sleep, so you take this for an hour of sleep, meaning at bedtime. OD, so O is in optic or eye, and then D is in dexter, so that's right eye. Did I mess up any? Nope. PM, what time of day is PM? That's in the evening. AM, morning. So these ones, QD means daily. QID means quad, so 4 times a day. How many how many wheels are on a tricycle? It's gonna be 3, so 3 times a day. How many wheels are on a bicycle? 2 times a day. AC, that means so A for ante, so before, and then C for consumption, so that means before meals. IM, intramuscular. MDI, so that's one that's specifically to the pharmacy, and it's going to be a metered dose inhaler. Okay. AS, so like I said, auditory or audio, that's going to be left ear. AD, audio right, so that's right ear. C, sometimes it has a line over it, that's going to be with. GTT, that is drop. There you go. Those are all the abbreviations that are going to be on that unit. Okay. So C for 100, I for 1, X for 10. So if you look at this one, we have a 1 in front of a 10. So if there's a smaller number in front of a bigger number, we need to subtract that. So that turns into a 9 in a 100. So that is 109. The mils to teaspoon. Remember your conversion. Teaspoon, nope, not 5. 1 teaspoon, 5 mils. Okay. We have 30. So what is 30 divided by 5? That is going to be 6. How many gallons of syrup are needed to package 144 bottles of 120 mils per bottle? All right. So we have 120 mils per bottle. How many bottles are we bottling? 144. That is 144 times 120. It's going to be 17,280 mils. Okay, so I'm going to give you a little like I guess sort of a cheat sheet or a cheat code. What I want you to do is, if it's not on your memorization chart, I want you to memorize the fact that there are 4,000 mils in 1 gallon. And so, like I said, this is an approximation. So if you want to get the actual number, you would just go through the gallon man and say, okay, for example, off the top of my head, I know that there's 480 mils in a pint. I know that there's 2 pints in a quart. I know that there's 4 quarts in a gallon. So I can work through it that way. Or I can just off the top of my head say that there's 4,000 mils in a gallon, which in this situation, that's what I would probably do. And notice that there are 17,280 mils. How many gallons? And over here, I will put my 4,000, 1 gallon. So that'll turn into 17,280 divided by 4,000. That's around 4.32 gallons. Okay, like I said, that's an approximation, but that might save you some time on the exam, using that approximation, not having to do all those calculations. So that might be a good thing to do. How many tablets are needed for a prescription for 21 days? It is 0.5 milligrams per tablet. 1 tablet, 3 times a day, 21 days. So this is going to be for the entire prescription. So what does TID stand for? That's 3 times. So she takes 3 a day. For how many days? 21 days. Okay, so it turns into a 21 times 3, 63 tabs. Okay. Convert the Arabic number 36 to a Roman numeral. So for 30, I'm going to use 3 x's. That right there is 30. And then I know that 6 is a 5 and a 1. So I need to do XXXVI. Okay. 15.5 grams to grains. So don't let that confuse you right there, because your conversion is in milligrams. You know that there are 65 milligrams to a grain, but we have 15.5 grams. So 15.5 grams is how many milligrams? Because you know that the word milli means that that is 1/1000th. So you know that there is 1 gram, I'm sorry, not mils. There's 1,000 milligrams in 1 gram. Okay, so it turns into 1,000 times 15.5, which is 15,500 milligrams. Okay, now your conversion rate that you know in your head is going to work now. So how many grams is that? Or I'm sorry, grains? Because we know that there are 65 milligrams for 1 grain. So that turns into 15,500 times 1 divided by 65. And that is 238.46 grains. Mils to ounces. So there is how many mils in a fluid ounce? You said 30. You're correct. Okay. So if you like, I mean, just looking at that right now, I'm telling myself, okay, well, if there is 1 fluid ounce, 30 mils, and I have 59, which is very close to 60, it's probably going to be 2. But if you really want me to get it exactly right, so it's 1 fluid ounce, 30 mils, and then we have X fluid ounce and 59 mils. So 59 divided by 30, 1.967 fluid ounces. Or we will just call that 2. Convert the following 3 grains to milligrams. So once again, 65 milligrams, 1 grain, and we have 3 grains. 65 times 3. That is 195 milligrams. All right, so on this one, the metric base unit. So when it talks about base unit, you should think of things like, okay, milligram, kilogram, milliliter, things like that. So for weight specifically, it's going to be gram. Another math problem with fractions, 7 over 10 times 1 over 5. Good thing multiplication is easy because it's just straight across. So it turns into 7 and then 50. Does it simplify? No. 7 over 50. So this one I just said recently, prefix for 1 over 1,000 or a thousandth is milli. Okay. Milli is 1/1000th. 60 mils is how many tablespoons. So just remember to not get tripped up by the table and T. So there is 15 mils in 1 TBSP. And you were trying to figure out how many is in 60. So it's 60 divided by 15, which is 4. 22 ounces to mils. Once again, you remember that there is 30 mils in an ounce. So we have 1 over 30 mils. And then we have 22. 30 times 22 divided by 1 is 660. How many tablets are needed to fill this for that many days? 34 days. 1 tab, 3 times a day for 34 days. So once again, the first thing you need to do first is look at how many they take in a day. TID, 3 times. So that means that they take 3 tabs in 1 day. How many do they need for 34 days? So it's just as simple as 34 times 3 which you should get 102. Okay. So 50 is going to be L, and then 7 is going to be tough to make because you're going to need a 5 and then 2. So that turns into VII. Okay. How many doses are in a 100 milliliter bottle? If each dose is 1/2 teaspoon. So really you don't need to know 250 per 5 mils. You just need to know how many times you can pull out 1/2 of a teaspoon out of 100 mils. So what I'm going to do is turn teaspoon, by the way, 1/2 is 0.5. 0.5 teaspoon, how many mils? Because I personally know that there are 5 teaspoons. Sorry, let's write that backwards. And 5 mils. Okay. So I need to do 5 times 0.5, which is 2.5. Okay. So that means that a dose is 2.5 mils. How many times can you pull 2.5 out of 100? So that turns into 100 divided by 2.5. If anyone is getting confused as far as when to multiply, when to divide, you should think about it because it says each dose is 1/2 teaspoon. How many doses are in the entire bottle? So you know that a dose is going to be smaller. You're going to be able to pull each dose out of that 100 mils. How many times can you do that? That in itself is a division problem. How many milligrams are in one tablet of 2 grains? So basically you're asking how many milligrams is 2 grains. There is 65 milligrams in 1 grain. How many are in 2? 65 times 2. 130 milligrams. Metric base unit for volume, like I said, we're talking about base units. It's going to be liter. Ounces to mils, 30 mils, 1 ounce. So it's just 6 times 30 is 180. One tab, QID, 21 days. How many tabs are needed? So once again, first question is how many do they take in 1 day? That's 4 tabs in 1 day. How many do they need in 21 days? 21 times 4 is 84 tabs. A division. So like I said, division is pretty easy because all you have to do is just flip the first number, turn it into a multiplication. So I'm going to flip all these. That's 16, sorry. Straight across, 7 times 16, 112. And then 48 times 14, which is 672. I don't really know, but I'm going to say that those are probably divisible by I can actually take out 14. And so I really don't know the best way of simplifying. I'm sorry, I'm not a math teacher. I just sort of guess and check. But 112 divided by 14, that's going to give me 8. 672 divided by 14 is going to give me 48. So that even simplifies even further because I can divide those by 8 itself. 1 over 6. All right, addition. So this one's going to suck because we're going to have to get common denominators. Okay. Also, remember, do not be fooled by that. 6 in a fraction is 6 over 1 plus 1 over 100 plus 3 over 10. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and convert those to 100. So I need to do that times 100. I need to do this times 10. So that is 600 over 100 plus 1 over 100 plus 30 over 100. Okay, so 631 over 100. I already know that I can take out 100 from 631 6 times because 100 times 6 is 600. That'll leave me with 31 over 100 and 6. Does that simplify? I don't think so. So that's my answer. I'm just going to go ahead and do it because I know that there is 30 mils in an ounce, so that's 8 times 30. Maximum number of boxes containing 48 tablets in 1 day. So this is the limit in this situation. Has 146 tablets divided by 48. So 3.04, like I said in the previous question, we do not round that up. We're going to actually round that down, so that turns into 3 boxes. Very important on problems that you have boxes that you don't give me a decimal, because a decimal of a product, you can't do that. Now, this is a prefix for 1 million. So this is the opposite of 1 over 1 million. This is going to be a big number. And if you know anything about the lotto or the Powerball, that is going to be the mega millions. So this is mega. Okay. 1,000. That is the opposite of milli. And the opposite of milli is kilo. 46.5 grams is equal to, I'm just going to go ahead and do it on paper because I'm going to do grams to milligrams and then milligrams to grains. So grams to milligrams, just multiply by 1,000. That is 46,500 milligrams. And then I'm going to set up a proportion. So divide that by 65. Once again, how many they take a day, or how long they need to take it. So TID is 3. So it's 3 tabs. Oh, we're talking about caps, my bad. Three times 34, that's 102. Once again, grains to milligrams. We have 1/2, which is the same thing as 0.5. So we have 0.5 grains We don't know how many milligrams that is, but you know your conversion. 65 times 0.5 is equal to 32.5 milligrams. Okay, now this one I believe confused some people because it says 4 divided dose. What is each dose for a patient who weighs that many pounds? So this is an early glimpse of weight-based calculation, which we'll get to. And I'll show you how we do that. Okay, so right there, this is going to be our dosage. You can see that it's milligrams per kilogram per day. So that means for every kilogram this person weighs, they'll get 30 milligrams in that day. So right here is our first problem. That's kilos. What is this? Pounds. I want you always to go to kilos. So we need to convert 205 pounds is how many kilos? Okay, so it's basically 205 divided by 2.2. Okay, the person weighs 93.18 kilos. They need 30 milligrams for every kilogram for every day. Does the patient just weigh 1 kilo? The answer is no. They weigh 93.18. So that means they will need 2,795.45 milligrams per day. Now, right there is where a lot of people get confused by this question because it says each dose, 4 divided doses. So meaning that day has 4 doses in it. So it'll be divided by 4. 698.86 milligrams per dose. I think that's what it was asking. This, I'm just going to do 1.816 times 2.2 because I know that there are more pounds in a kilogram. A kilogram is heavier. So 1.816 times 2.2 is equal to 3.995, or we'll call it 4. All right, so here we got another CMEA problem with mils. What is the maximum number of bottles containing 118 mils in 30 days? So really, we don't even need milligrams in that situation because we have mils right there. So basically, we just have their limit, 3,661, and we have how many mils the bottles are. And I get 31.025. Once again, round down, 31 bottles. Okay. Same process, BID, 10 days, dose in teaspoon. Okay, a little bit different. So they need to take 375 milligrams in a dose. We don't know how many mils that is. But we do know that our drug is supplied in 250 milligram per 5 mil. So that turns into 375 times 5 divided by 250. 7.5 mils per dose. But the question is in teaspoons, so we need to convert that into teaspoons. I know that there are 5 mils in 1 teaspoon, so 7.5 divided by 5. And you should get 1.5 teaspoon. And 2 more. So we have ounces to mils. Once again, 15 times 30, 450. TID, 7 days. So we have 3 tabs, 1 day. Okay, 3 times 7, that is 21 tabs. Perfect. Not too bad. So I will say on this one, please just go through your memorization with units, Arabic numbers, um, conversions, metric prefixes, stuff like that. There's a lot of memorization for this unit, as there is for everything, but especially this one, because this kind of lays the foundation for going forward. So the thought of saying, ounces to mils, thought of saying pounds to kilos, that thing is going to just keep coming up as you have known by now. So please go through that. Please go through that list, write them down, use some flashcards, whatever you need to do, but just don't let that surprise you on the test. So good luck. Thanks for studying. Thanks for watching.